So deep in the heart of India, there's this absolutely massive engineering project happening right now. It's trying to solve a problem that's, well, as old as time. How do you get water to land that's desperate for it? But this plan, a mix of huge ambition and some really smart tech, is hitting some very modern roadblocks. So let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start in the Chitradurga district. We're in central Karnataka, right in India's Deccan Plateau. And you have to understand, in this region, farming isn't just, a job. It's everything. It's a way of life. But it's a tough one, completely dictated by this constant struggle for water. The rivers, they only flow part of the year, which means dry farming is pretty much all they've got.
And right there, that's the heart of the problem. The way farming has been done for generations, what's called surface or flood irrigation, it's just so inefficient. I mean, a huge amount of the water just vanishes into thin air through evaporation, or it just runs off before the crops can even get to it. And when every single drop counts, it's a huge issue.
So, what's the solution? Enter the Upper Bhadra project. This is the government's big, ambitious answer. We're talking about a plan on a massive scale. And the idea is pretty straightforward. Physically move water from rivers that have a lot of it to the districts that are bone dry and need it most.
So you're probably wondering, how does something like this even work? Well, at its core, it's what's known as a lift irrigation scheme. The concept is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Basically, if gravity won't bring the water to you, you just, use giant pumps to lift it up and send it exactly where you need it to go.
And when I say the scale is massive, I mean it's truly staggering. Just listen to these numbers. In Stage 1, the project is going to lift 17.4 TMC, that's 1,000 million cubic feet, of water from the Tunga River. Then in Stage 2, it gets even bigger, 29.9 TMC lifted from the Bhadra Reservoir into this huge tunnel system. Now, to give you a sense of what a TMC even is, picture the entire island of Manhattan. Now imagine covering it in a foot of water. That's 1 TMC. This project, it's moving almost 48 times that amount. Just wild.
So what's the end goal here? The idea is to irrigate over 225,000 hectares of farmland. And just to put that number into perspective for you, that's an area bigger than the entire city of Bangalore. But it's not just about farming, which is really important. The project is also designed to refill the groundwater and top up hundreds of local water tanks, for drinking water. Okay, but here's the thing. Just moving all that water from point A to point B, that's not enough. To really solve the problem, you have to be smart about how you use it. And this, right here, is where the project gets super interesting. It's where we move from just pure brute force engineering to some really clever, efficient tech. And this really gets to the heart of it, the old way versus the new way. You've got your traditional surface irrigation, which, as we've said, is super wasteful and not very precise at all. But then you have the solution, drip irrigation. And this is a game changer. This tech delivers water and all the good stuff, the nutrients, directly to the roots of each plant. Just drop by drop, exactly where it needs to be. No waste.
All right, let's talk numbers, because this is where it gets crazy. A detailed study was done on this exact area, and it found that traditional irrigation is, it's shockingly inefficient. We're talking an efficiency of just 54%. Think about that. That means almost half of all the water being used on the fields never even does its job.
Now, check out the difference when you switch to drip irrigation. That efficiency number jumps all the way up to over 81%. That is a massive leap forward when you're trying to conserve a resource this precious.
And this is what that really means in the real world on the ground? To grow the main crops in this region the old way, surface irrigation needs over 2,600 millimeters of water. But with drip irrigation, that number plummets to just over 1,750. That's a huge difference.
So here's the bottom line, the most important takeaway. When you combine this giant water-moving project with this really smart tech, you slash the total water you need by a third, a full 33% reduction. You can grow the exact same amount of food, but with way less water.
And if you look at the actual data from the research, you can see this isn't just a one-off. What we see here is the water needed for all the major local crops using the old wasteful method. And then, here's the same crops, but with drip irrigation. And look, for every single one of them, from sorghum to groundnuts, the amount of water needed is way lower. It's just a clear win no matter how you look at it. Okay, so you've got this huge, ambitious plan. You've got the proven technology to make it work. Sounds like the perfect solution, right? Well, this is where our story takes a turn.
From the neat plans on the drawing board to the messy, complicated reality of actually making it happen.
And listen, on paper, everything looks like it was going great. The project got this fancy national project status. A huge grant, we're talking 5,300 crore rupees, was announced in the central government's budget. They even got the key approval they needed to use some forest land. You'd think it was full steam ahead, right? But here comes the reality check. This is straight from the Ministry of Jal Shakti. That's the central government department in charge of all this. And they said that despite that huge budget announcement early in the year, by the end of that same year, not a single rupee of that money had actually been released. Nothing.
So, what's the holdup? The official reason is, you guessed it, bureaucracy. The project's costs had gone up, so they needed an updated price tag. And that new proposal is still stuck somewhere in the review process. And that right there, that's the classic gap between a big political announcement and actually getting the paperwork done.
But here's the thing. That doesn't mean everything ground to a halt. Not at all. The state government of Karnataka, they haven't been just sitting around and waiting. By the end of 2023, they had already pushed ahead, spending over 11,000 crore rupees of their own money to keep the project moving.
And that brings us right up to today. After all these years of planning and research and all this construction, the project is getting really close to a critical moment. So, the big question is, what happens now?
And look, there's real, tangible progress being made on the ground. The whole tender process for the drip irrigation systems for almost 74,000 hectares, that's done. A state minister is on the record, committing to a trial run. They want to release some water into the system very soon. And on top of all that, the state is reporting that the first stage of those huge water-lifting works is already complete.
So, it all comes down to this, really. What the Upper Bhadra project proves is that we have the engineering skills, we have the smart technology to fight water scarcity on a massive scale. The science is solid. The need? It's undeniable. The only question left, the final critical piece of the puzzle, is whether the administrative will is there to move fast enough to cut through all the delays and actually turn this brilliant plan into a reality that changes millions of lives.